Sir Jim Ratcliffe has increased his stake at Manchester United, given a £79 million boost. But what are those funds for? Alejandro Garnacho could be sold if he fails to perform. Manchester United's left-back target is not considered unsellable, and inquiries made for Dimarco. And unfortunately, more Rashford news to go through in a rundown of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video and let's go through it. So let's start with the breaking news that's just come out. Literally just as I was about to record this video regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe giving a big cash boost or an increase in his stake at Manchester United, which I found really interesting. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe has injected a further £79 million into Man United, increasing his stake at the club and changed ownership of his involvement to his Ineos company. That's really interesting. A filing listed on the US Securities and Exchange Commission has confirmed a raise in stakeholding to 28.94%. It has also disclosed that ownership of those shares has transferred first from Sir Jim Ratcliffe to Ineos, which is really interesting. The £79 million Sir Jim Ratcliffe has invested is not earmarked to go into a January war chest for Ruben Amorim. Instead, the investment has been earmarked for infrastructure that will be used across the club. Now, that's really interesting. Obviously, we know we're in a financial mess because of the previous regime and the Glazer ownership and servicing the debt and stuff. And the fact that Sir Jim has now increased his shareholdings, effectively increased his stake in the club up to 28.94% and given a further £80 million or £79 million boost to the club. It's really interesting. Someone mentioned in a comment before as well from a previous video, and I think you were spot on with this, around the full path to ownership for Ineos would be for them to firstly service the debt and buy the club in Ineos's name. So that kind of debt that we have at the club doesn't necessarily need to be paid off by Sir Jim. They can just shift it from Man United to Ineos's name, and then also obviously then buy the Glazers out as a kind of pathway to full ownership for Ineos, which is the way I think that it would go down. I think you were spot on with the kind of comment on that. So shout out for kind of bringing that to everyone's attention in the comments. But that's really interesting. Apparently not earmarked towards transfers, but I don't see how you can't use that money towards transfers. It'll obviously, it might go to pay, I know it might help to pay, Eric Ten Hag's settlement or his severance pay and the money that we had to pay to get Ruben Amorim in, which might then free up some funds that could go towards transfers. It may help us with obviously PSR rules, so freeing up some kind of cash. Who knows what it's actually going to be used for? But really interesting update. It's just broken, so I've not really had too much time to investigate things or do any more research on what it could mean for the club. But, it's another sign that there could be, in my opinion, just reacting to it as it's kind of coming out, that could be a sign that, there is a pathway for full ownership for Ineos and Sir Jim. And ultimately, I would champion that because I don't want the Glazers in charge. And I think the debt is kind of starting to cripple us in terms of our financial output with PSR rules and stuff. So it can only be a positive. The other thing I was thinking as well around the Ineos thing was that there was an issue, wasn't there, in the summer with us signing play. Wanted to sign Jean-Claire Todibo from Nice, but we couldn't because of the ownership. So the fact that Sir Jim has moved it now to Ineos, I don't know how that affects that kind of multi-club model that they're looking to potentially build. So that's something that to keep an eye on as well going forward. But really interesting update. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'll do some more research. No doubt we'll hear some more stories about what it means and what it could mean going forward, coming out over the next day or two. So I'll bring you any more updates if it develops. But really interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, I'm going to go through the Rashford stuff. Apologies. I know a lot of you are getting bored. I'm getting bored of covering it as well, being completely truthful with you. But it is news. This is a news channel where I bring you when I review all the Man United news. So let's go through it. So Marcus Rashford cried after the FA Cup final because he thought it was his last game for Manchester United. That was from the Muppeteers. The Muppeteers were effectively saying that it feels like, and some of the reports coming out now are suggesting that maybe he had a conversation with Ineos last summer and was actually up for sale. I just don't think we got the offers for the price that we were wanting. I think they would have happily sold Rashford, but they were overvaluing him. or wanted like a high wage because obviously he had a bit more value at that time, plus his wages that he's on as well. But there were no real interested parties. It's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. Now he's effectively come out and saying that he's ready for a new challenge, and what United's stance will be on the asking price now as well. Apparently, it's the reports are. I've heard anything from 30 to 50 million pounds, but I would imagine in the summer that would have been, closer to 60, maybe even 80 million pounds they would have wanted for Rashford. So that's really interesting. That's why he was so emotional after the FA Cup final, because apparently he felt that was his last game. And is that one of the problems? Because we've done this in the past where we've kept players too long and they haven't moved on, and then it's actually affected their performances and stuff. So I wonder if there is something like that going on with Marcus. But yeah, interesting update from the Muppeteers. Manchester United were only informed of the content of Marcus Rashford's quotes just before they were made public yesterday. Now that's interesting. Apparently no one at the club knew beforehand that he was going to do the interview, but obviously just before it was released by Henry Winter probably reached out to the club and say, look, I've just done an interview with Marcus, I'm just posting it out now. That's what could have happened. So that's really interesting to see how that kind of develops. Rio Ferdinand has alerted contacts in the Saudi Pro League to Marcus Rashford's availability. That came from The Athletic, that apparently Rio Ferdinand, for some reason, randomly is getting involved to see whether the Saudi clubs would be interested in a move for Marcus. I kind of think that would be, that would be ideal for us, because they're ones that would pay, a decent amount for him and obviously could afford his wages. Just whether he would want to go there or not would be the kind of question. And this report came from, I don't know the credibility myself, but it was posted by a credible outlet, so I'm going to assume credible. It's a Saudi Arabian journalist, saying that so far there is no real tangible move from the Saudi League for Rashford. United has strong relations in Saudi Arabia, and the agreement with United is not a problem. The biggest problem is player approval, which is what we just mentioned, or I just mentioned there regarding Marcus, is whether he would want to go to Saudi. The more, like Henry Winter, who actually did the interview with him, was suggesting Spain. There's been a few more reports around Spain as well, which we'll run through. Now, Ruben Amorim himself, again, in the embargoed part of his press conference, I thought handled himself really well when it comes to the questions regarding Marcus. Interestingly said, he was asked, as a former player, how he would have reacted to being left out of the squad. He said, I can say that for if it was me, I would probably speak to the manager rather than do an interview, but let's focus on Tottenham. That's the most important thing. So interesting that Amorim was like, if it was me, I wouldn't have done an interview. I would have just spoken to the manager. And he did kind of suggest that there'll be words with Rashford when they meet up, because apparently he's been ill and hasn't been training yet. So that's one to keep an eye on. No doubt we'll hear some stories regarding that. Now, I said yesterday, don't be surprised if you start hearing swap rumours regarding Marcus Rashford, and then lo and behold, for Chahez, I would say take them with a pinch of salt. Spanish outlet have linked us with a swap deal for Marcus Rashford. So Barcelona are thinking to offer one of Ronald Araujo or Frankie de Jong in a swap deal plus cash for Marcus Rashford. Barcelona are absolutely skint. They're struggling to get the money to register Dani Olmo for the second part of the season. So I don't see how they're going to get the funds to be able to buy Marcus, but the Muppeteers were saying maybe some kind of loan with an obligation to buy for Barcelona, and then if we did take one of their players, it's not beyond impossible. I just don't trust the credibility of that story, personally. But it would be, hypothetically, if you could swap, De Jong for Marcus, I would probably do that in a heartbeat, being truthful with you. But swaps very rarely happen. It would be such a complicated deal to do. I can't see it kind of happening at all, let alone in January. But, I'll keep an eye on it for you. If any more credibility around it comes out, then I'll let you know. But it's not impossible, just very rare and very unlikely, I would say, personally. So I would say take it with a pinch of salt for now, but let me know what you think in the comments. And The Athletic was saying that people briefed on Marcus Rashford's matter in Saudi say their clubs are more selective in their target players. They believe the stock of English talent has fallen and do not expect a market to emerge for Rashford for now. So The Athletic, who are a good source, effectively saying that they don't feel that there's a market in the Saudi, or an appetite in the Saudi Pro League to get Marcus. But whether they've changed their mind now that they think he might be available or not, who knows? But that's all the latest regarding Marcus. I don't want to dwell on it too long, because I'm sure you're probably sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of talking about it as well. I think I had a kind of bit of reflection this morning chatting with my brother-in-law around it. ultimately, I think it's just a win-win for United with what's going on. He either pulls his socks up with Amram dropping him, and then we get a good player in Marcus back in the team if he can find his form and find his feet again, or we're going to sell him, we're going to save a shitload of cash in wages and get some money in as he's for homegrown profit as well for PSR as well. So I don't think United can lose in this situation personally. The only way we could lose is if he just sat on the bench and saw out his contract for the next 3 years. That's how United would lose. But apparently, Rashford himself said he's ready for a new challenge, and if you're ready for a new challenge, you're not really going to sit on the bench. So I think this is a win-win for United, regardless of what happens. Either Marcus Rashford pulls his finger out, starts performing on the pitch, and then we get a player back, or we sell him and we save loads of wages and get loads of cash in. So it's a win-win for us personally. But let me know what you think about the Rashford stuff in the comments. Now, one of the other very naughty boys that was dropped for the game at the weekend was Alejandro Garnacho. Now, the Muppetiers on him said almost everybody in the squad gets a maximum of 2 years. If they can't perform to the level, they will be sold. Alejandro Garnacho could also be sold if he didn't perform. And that's going back, I mentioned this in a video I did around like a keep or sell. If you watch that one, the Omar Barada's big mantra is 2 years and to perform, otherwise you're gone. And there are a few players that I think fit within the kind of, need to improve category or need to show something this year that would already be in that kind of position. And the Muppetiers said, look, it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, or if you're not performing, then you're going to be moved on. And Alejandro Garnacho would be in that kind of list. Includes anybody in the club and at the squad. Ineos are not going to mess around. They're not going to sit on their laurels. Anyone that doesn't perform, you get 2 years, and then you're going to be looked to be moved on, including Garnacho, which is interesting. And then Ruben Amorim himself in his press conference, when asked on Garnacho, said he's very how he reacted to being dropped at the weekend. He said, very good. He trained very well. He seems a little angry with me, and that's perfect. I was very, very happy because I would have reacted the same way. He's ready for this match. So in stark contrast to the other very naughty boy that got dropped at the weekend, Marcus, who came out and done an interview and basically said, yeah, I want to leave. Apparently Garnacho has done the opposite and been really angry about it, which hopefully will ignite him into some form, which is only a positive for us as well. And again, going back to what's just mentioned there, if he doesn't perform, then he's going to be sold as well. And there's and that's the right approach. That's how, it's exciting in a way, but we should be doing that anyway as a top club. That's how top clubs should operate, regardless of who the name of the player is. If you're not performing on the pitch, you should be gone. But unfortunately, over the last few years, we've given new contracts out to people that haven't been performing on the pitch. And that's where we are as a squad and as a team. And that's what's so frustrating. So, but yeah, I thought, again, Amorim handled himself really well in the press conference with the kind of responses that he gave. And then Court Offside, who are they've got credible journalists, not so credible journalists. This came from one of their kind of mid journalists, so I would say kind of take it with a pinch of salt for now. Say one unnamed European club is trying to sign Alejandro Garnacho on loan from United with a £60 million permanent option. Atletico Madrid, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Juventus and Al Hilal are all interested in him. So I think there would be way more takers for Garnacho than Rashford if we were to sell one or potentially both. I don't think there's an appetite at United. I don't think he's quite at that stage yet where we're looking to sell him, because he had a good start to the season. It's just the last couple of months where his performances have dropped off a little bit, although even through that he's scored goals and he scored some goals as well. So he's not, it's just, is there something going on with his attitude behind the scenes? Because I think that's the third or fourth time where he's been taken out of the squad for not performance issues, for something behind the scenes or attitude or lateness or whatever it's been as well. So there's clearly something kind of that he needs to develop himself going on behind the scenes. But he is young and he's got time to develop. But as the Muppetiers said, if he doesn't perform, he's going to be sold. And that's, again, a win-win for United, because if he's not performing for us, homegrown player, got good value, there would be interested, I think, outside of him. Let's not forget he's just been ranked the third best young player in the world in the kind of Golden Boy Award. So he's not a bad player. He's just in a bit of bad form and maybe has some kind of issues that hopefully can be ironed out by doing things like this. I think Amorim's got the right approach, but he has got the right attitude coming back, and hopefully we'll see some fire in his belly if he does play tonight. He's in the matchday squad, so I can't see why he wouldn't at least be involved in the game at some point. Whether he starts or not, we don't know yet, because the team news hasn't been leaked out a day before, so we don't know what the likely lineup's going to be until later on. But yeah, really interesting on Garnacho. I think he's handled it the right way, and hopefully we see a performance from him. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let's go through some other transfer news. So AC Milan have reportedly informed Theo Hernandez he can leave the club as early as January if a suitable offers come in next month amid interest from Manchester United. Hernandez's long-term future at the Italy side has been subject to speculation after coach Paulo Fonseca criticised some players for not giving their all in every match. Hernandez was left on the bench for Milan's stalemate with Girona on Sunday. Tuttosport have reported that his agent Miguel Garcia Gilleon is seeking clarification over Hernandez's role in the team. Milan, who are reported to have offered the Frenchman a new deal worth €5 million plus bonuses, the club don't consider the left-back unsellable should an offer arrive during the winter transfer window. Now, I read that in the Manchester Evening News, came from Tuttosport. I would say they're not the most credible source. But really interesting if it is to be believed that there's problems going on with Theo Hernandez. Obviously, Florian Plettenberg is one that's been linking us with him quite a lot recently as one of the more expensive left-back options. Could that be a agent story, though? Because it mentions, whenever I hear a story and it's like, oh, we've offered him this wages and he wants a new contract, and then you get linked with United, I do always question whether it's agent talk. But, apparently not unsellable, could be a viable option if we've got the money. I just don't think we'll have that sort of money to go for somebody like Hernandez in January. That's more of a summer deal. But who knows with what's going on? If you get some cash in for Rashford and reduce some wages, plus we've just had the Sir Jim Ratcliffe cash injection as well, increasing his, who knows what's actually kind of going on. We'll need to wait and see. But yeah, let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, he's not the only left back, wing back from Serie A that we have been linked with. So Manchester United recently asked for information on Inter Milan left-back Federico Dimarco. Inter consider him untouchable. Now, that would be a really interesting option. He looks like he's a very good player from the research and what I've kind of done around him. So as you can see, look at his kind of percentile. 98 percentile for goals, 93, 99 for shots, 92, 99 for expected assists and goals. Do you know what I mean? If you want an attacking fullback, then he looks then me likey. Touches in the attacking penalty area, progressive passes. Do you know what I mean? Defensively, I would kind of worry about it, but I don't know the sort of system that Inter Milan are kind of playing in, whether he is just allowed to go forward. Very, very talented. He's 27 years old, 18 appearances, 3 goals, 4 assists for a left back this season. Very good. You can see from his heat map on here as well how kind of attacking he is, where he has kind of more touches in the attacking third as well. So that would be, very interesting option. Is he outside of the, the age bracket being a little bit older than what potentially United are looking for, but would definitely fit the bill of being, if we're after a very important left back, would be an interesting option, but again, not from the most credible source, Tuttosport. Plus, Inter apparently consider him untouchable, which means he will cost an absolute bomb. He's valued at 60 million euros on transfer market, but would be, he would be up there, as a very, very good left wing back option if you want someone in that kind of attacking mode, which I do think Amorim wants. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then the final story I've got for you is regarding top talent Bakimas. Remember I brought you this story, I think it was last week. Young 16-year-old from Charlotte FC, if I remember rightly, is having trials at Manchester United. Is training with us at the moment. Met Chido Martin last night. Look at the size difference. Chido Martin looks like a giant next to him. Apparently, Bakimas is 6'5". Chido Martin's 6'2". So look at the size difference on there as well. But really talented player, very highly regarded. 16-year-old. He's a right-footed left winger. American, plays for Charlotte FC, as I mentioned. He's had trials at Bayern Munich recently as well. looks like an absolute child against Tito Martin there as well, who scored a brace last night as well for the reserves. What a player he is. But yeah, really interesting option. That kind of does fit in the mold more about Ineos are looking for. Young, up-and-coming, developmental, best of his kind of age category in his area. So I'll keep any updates on that. I don't think we can sign him though because of, is it not FIFA rules or UEFA rules around under 18s, but maybe they could do a deal, loan him back until that time. But really interesting option. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.